do this. Just 1 second. And now we are live, I think. Yes, we are. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new live stream of the game Rex. And I know I haven't uploaded in a while, but that was because I was very busy with school and work and other things behind the scenes. But today we will react to a new video I haven't seen before. Really short, Bronthair, hi, welcome to the stream. Really appreciate it. But today we are gonna watch a very interesting video I haven't seen before, or well, at least I watched the first 5 minutes to see if it was interesting enough. But it will be a video about Tyrannosaurs. And who on earth doesn't love Tyrannosaurs? You strapped the spondylus. Hello, my bro. But yeah, I think it's time to react to this very interesting video. But before we do that, I would like to point out that tomorrow a new video will release. Very interesting, so please make sure to stay alert. But let's jump into the video and let's see. How Tyrannosaurs Ruled the World by David Hone. Let's see.
Thank you very much. It really is a pleasure to be back at the Royal Institution. This is a lovely place for me to come, and I'm very excited.
Wait. Before we continue, I really absolutely admire David Hone. He's a brilliant figure in paleontology. Absolutely amazing.
I'm Dave Hone. I'm a paleontologist at Queen Mary University, and this, which you've all seen down the front, is Queenie.
Queenie.
This is our Tyrannosaurus.
Oh my
I'm
god.
afraid it's not a real one. This is a cast, so this is a copy of an original, which is actually at the Smithsonian in Washington in the US, but we're lucky enough to have her and bring her along, and we'll be using her
all right.
at various points in the lecture. Everyone knows Tyrannosaurus. Everyone is familiar with Tyrannosaurus. It is probably the one dinosaur that absolutely every single person can name.
Yeah, I really agree with him on that one. Literally, Tyrannosaurus Rex is the only freaking dinosaur that anyone on this planet can name. That's a fact, 100,000% sure.
And it's a fascinating dinosaur. It has an enormous amount of kind of cultural, baggage as well as excitement attached to it. But actually, from a paleontological point of view, it is a really exciting and really interesting animal. And in fact,
it really is.
What we call a model organism in biology. That is, it's become an animal or an organism which is well studied. And so we know an awful lot about it. And arguably, we know more about Tyrannosaurus than any other dinosaur.
Yeah, that's because it's the most famous one.
You actually tend to get this kind of weird positive feedback. Because it is something that we know an awful lot about, if you as a paleontologist are starting a new study or a new project, you're going to pick an animal that you already know a lot about. So people tend to focus on Tyrannosaurus, so they do more work on it. So we know more about it, so we do more work on it. And so our knowledge about Tyrannosaurus in particular has kind of accelerated away from the other dinosaurs. And it's become extraordinarily well known, and therefore very, very important for us.
Oh, that's very cool, actually.
What people don't realize is just how much we have. There's this kind of idea that all our dinosaurs are very fragmentary and things are only known from a few little bones here and there. And that is true for many species.
Sorry for that.
Dinosaurs. We often have only a single specimen. It's very fragmentary. We only have a few bits. But Tyrannosaurus, that's really not true at all. Here are just four. That are known.
Oh, wait. 4 specimens of Tyrannosaurus. Let's see. I already know the this one here at the bottom, Sue, one of actually the most complete Tyrannosaurus Rex ever until now. Yeah, only a piece of the foot is missing and a neck vertebrae, I think. Stan, I have heard of that one. The other two are I haven't seen that before. But yeah, especially Stan and Sue, two very complete specimens of Tyrannosaurus. Very cool.
And you can see here that each of them is varying degrees of completeness. Some of them have quite a lot missing. Some of them are basically complete. The one down at the bottom there is known as Sue, which is in Chicago.
Yeah,
And
Sue.
Sue is basically complete. As you can see, a bit of the foot's missing, a few other little bits here and there, but we basically have almost every single bone of Sue. And it's also worth noting that they're not all quite the same. Just as not all of us are quite the same.
Yeah, I
Every
see
individual
some
is slightly
differences.
different. There are subtle differences in the anatomy, the number of teeth, the slight shape of the head, the shape of the hands, or the pelvis, and things like this. So, there's really quite a few Tyrannosaurus specimens out there, and that helps us learn more about Tyrannosaurus. You can see what the range of variation is. You can see what big ones and little ones are like, and things like this. But you may be surprised to know just how many we have. So here is just a collection of the skulls that we have of Tyrannosaurus. So here are 8 different skulls. Queenie is actually in there at the middle down at the bottom.
Oh yeah. Here we have Queenie, the skull that's actually now in the show. Yeah, you can definitely see there are some slight differences in the skull shape of these different specimens. For example, this one is more it's longer. Hello there, Rexy Rex. Welcome to the show. Enjoy it. Yeah, this one's more broad. Yeah, you can definitely see the differences.
And these are a whole bunch of Tyrannosaurus skulls from various different museums.
Such a cool
and even
animal.
this really doesn't cover the diversity we actually have. These are just ones I happen to have photos of. There is about 20 good specimens of Tyrannosaurus, give or take. Ones that are like the previous slide I showed. And then when you start adding up all the other little bits, we've got very fragmentary and incomplete skulls, bits of backbone, single arms, single feet, odd bits of rib, and things like this. We have dozens of specimens of Tyrannosaurus. So while it is true that odd dinosaurs are known from very little information, we have to extrapolate.
Dozens of specimens?
This is one where we have very large numbers of specimens, often preserved in exquisite detail. Though there are some things we need to take care of. One thing that's quite clear, even from this
over
photo,
a dozen specimens?
is they're often all different colours. The one in the middle is a specimen in Canada, which is called Black Beauty, because the bone is almost black. It's actually a beautiful specimen, but we've got others that are brown.
Yeah, wait. That's true. They all have... Why didn't I notice that before? They all have different colors. Wow, that's cool. That's very, very cool. Jeez, why did... Oh my god, alright.
Very, very pale colours. And that's because they're all preserved in slightly different rocks. They all have slightly different
yeah, that
histories.
explains
They've
it.
all been squidged and squished in various different ways at different times.
Yeah, alright.
Being underground for 65
That makes
million years
sense.
often does quite a lot of damage to you. And you can actually see this in various skeletons and skulls that are up there. And so they're not all quite the same. And we do need to be careful in how we piece together our evidence and build them up.
Yeah.
The other thing is, so far everything I've shown you is basically an adult, or at least near enough. But we actually have a range of different sizes of Tyrannosaurus. So these are 3 specimens that are in Los Angeles.
Oh, this is very cool.
At the back, we have basically a full-size animal, so it'd be about the same size as Queenie down here, so you can see just how big that would be. And
yeah. Alright, we have the adult over here, the sub-adult over here, the teenager, and this might be the youngling. Which is very cool, actually. I never saw this image of Tyrannosaurus Rex before. That's actually very cool. So this is what a juvenile T-Rex would have looked like. You can already see it. It has longer legs, longer snout. I don't. Does it have longer? Does it has longer arms compared to the rest of his body? I can't really tell. But wow, that's such an amazing specimen. Yeah, we can already see here in the subadult, the skull is getting more wider. The legs, they seem a little bit shorter compared to its body. Um, well, yeah, it definitely has some crucial differences. And then, of course, the adult, yeah, a very, very broad skull, uh, tinier arms compared to its body, and, of course, some shorter legs compared to its body. Well, nice work, guys.
Then
Very nice
off
work.
on the right is a kind of about half-sized animal, at least in terms of length. In terms of weight, it would be considerably smaller. And then down the front again is a tiny little one known as Chomper, and their head is about this big, 30 centimeters maybe. It's a very young animal, maybe only a couple of years old. So we have a
couple of years
range
old.
of
Wow.
sizes as well. So it's not just that we have this whole big pool of giant bone-crushing monsters, although we have plenty of them. We do actually have the equivalent of teenagers and even very young children. Though sadly to date we have no eggs and no embryos. We do have
Really?
lots of eggs for dinosaurs and even a few unborn.
That would be so
embryos of
awesome.
various ones, but not one for Tyrannosaurus or indeed any of the Tyrannosaurs.
An embryo of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. That would be awesome.
Tyrannosaurs is a really key point because again, everyone has heard of Tyrannosaurus. Everyone knows that name.
Yeah, of course.
It is one of about 30 species of.
Whoa, wait. This is the Tyrannosaurus family tree. Alright, let's have a look at it. So, of course, at the bottom, the very bottom, we have Tyrannosauridae. If I pronounced it correctly. Of course, the most ancient species of Tyrannosaurs were the Proceratosauridae, with, of course, Proceratosaurus, Guanlong, and some other dinosaurs, yeah. On the other side, we have dinosaurs like, of course, Eutyrannus. We all know that dinosaur. Eutyrannus. I don't know for sure. Dryptosaurs, yeah, of course. Wait, Raptor Rex? That's, I didn't know that. Electrosaurus, yeah, of course, I know that one. Wait. What's that? Aplysiosaurus. Never heard of that one. Some of these names, I'm really sorry. I'm not pronouncing it correctly. From here on, we have the Tyrannosauridae, with, of course, Gorgosaurs, Albertosaurs. They look very similar to each other. Tyrannosaurinae, with, of course, the well-known Changosaurus, Alioramus. Let's move up. Yeah, up here we have the most famous Tyrannosaur specimens ever. Here we have the Spletosaurus, of course. Teratophonius. Alright, I didn't heard of that one before. Of course, Nanosaurus, Tyrannosaurus Rex itself, Tarbosaurus, and Zhuchengtyrannus. I assume that these dinosaurs here, like Tarbosaur, the Spletosaurus, etc., are the closest relatives of Tyrannosaurus Rex. I think, alright. Appalachian Tyrannosaur. Alright. Oh, this one. Alright, now it makes sense.
This is a big, diverse group of animals. It is not just one species T-Rex. It is, in fact, a whole group, or what we'd call a club.
And literally, this group of dinosaurs, like, imagine, right? These group of dinosaurs, the, Tyrannosaur family, literally showed up as late until, I think the late Jurassic, or the early Cretaceous, in forms of a Proceratosaurus. No one, literally, if you walked right through a Jurassic forest and you saw a Proceratosaurus, you would never think that these little fuzzy predators would eventually evolve into these big, massive, bone-crushing animals. You would have never guessed it. That's so beautiful.
Evolutionary group of animals. And as we can see from here, hopefully you can see quite a diverse sense of size and shape. These little silhouettes are not done to scale.
All
And this
right.
is the complete
Yeah.
family tree of them so
Early
far.
Cretaceous, yeah.
I say there's about 30 species because we don't actually know quite how many there are. And there's a couple of reasons for this. First of all, paleontologists actually disagree on quite how you tell species apart. This is a problem that plagues modern biologists.
Yeah,
Things that
that's
look very,
really
very
true.
similar to each other, it's very hard to say if
Even
they're
I get
one
confused
species or
sometimes.
not. They might have very similar genetics, but quite different behavior, or very different appearances and live in different countries, but then their genes are almost the same. We are looking back to at least 65 million years with most of the bits missing. It's therefore inevitably very, very hard to say sometimes when you have two very incomplete skeletons if this is one species or two. Or if you have only a small group of very nice specimens, maybe there's two species in there, but we're not quite sure. So I say about 30 because that's a number that probably everyone agrees on, but there could easily be
Probably,
one or two
all
more we
right.
don't realize yet, or one or two fewer, and we need to revise some of our estimates. But it's certainly really quite a diverse group.
Oh my god,
Not
yeah,
only
it
that,
really
but Tyrannosaurs
is.
really got around.
And it's
Tyrannosaurus
beautiful.
itself lived in North America. We have lots of specimens from Canada, particularly in Alberta, and the US, particularly in Montana.
Yeah.
But it
Oh
was
yeah,
wider
especially
ranging than this.
Montana.
There's a whole bunch of bits down in central Mexico, which may or may not be Tyrannosaurus. They're very fragmentary, but certainly about the right time. And it would not be a big surprise if T-Rex had a really big range across the whole of North America. There's a whole bunch of Tyrannosaurs that lived in North America. It's not just this guy. We have things like Albertosaurus from Alberta,
Yeah.
and Gorgosaurus, and Daspletosaurus, and a whole bunch of others.
Wait, didn't Gorgosaurus and Daspletosaurus live in the same ecosystem? I thought I heard that from the Dino Facts, that Daspletosaurus and Gorgosaurus, yeah, they kind of lived in the same ecosystem or in the same area, but I don't know for sure. It could be.
We have a whole load from Asia. There's things like Tarbosaurus, Jichang-Tyrannus, Aeolioramus, and then going right back to the early days of Tyrannosaurs, we have things like Guanlong and Delong. And what may surprise some of you to learn is we actually have two different species which are known from the UK.
Wait,
We
what?
have a little thing called Proceratosaurus and another one from the Isle of Wight called Eotyrannus. And actually, Proceratosaurus is one of the
Eotyrannus.
earliest of the Tyrannosaurs. So it actually sits here on this little branch, which is actually called
Eotyrannus is from the UK.
Proceratosauridae. So it's an own little branch, a very early branch of Tyrannosaurs that came off.
It's actually very funny. Proceratosaurus literally means before Ceratosaurus. Pro stands for before, and Ceratosaurus, of course, a dinosaur itself. That's so funny because it's called Proceratosaurus, but it's a part of the Tyrannosauridae family. So it can be a little bit confusing, but yeah, still.
And diversified into a small little group. And these are unique because they all actually have little crests on their head, which we'll see better in the next slide. But the emphasis I want to make here is just how many Tyrannosaurs there are. It's not just T-Rex. This is
Yeah.
100 million years
But
worth
T-Rex
of
is
dinosaur
the only
evolution.
dinosaur.
The earliest Tyrannosaurs that we have lived about
Wait.
165 million years ago, and the last of them, including things like T-Rex, died with the great mass extinction at the end of the Cretaceous period.
Wait, T-Rex is, I think, the only dinosaur in the Tyrannosaurus species, I think. Yeah.
Right around 65 million years ago.
Never
So
mind, just
conveniently,
we just watch.
In one way, the Tyrannosaurs were around for almost exactly 100 million years. So that's a nice, easy figure. And we have them on at least 3 continents. There are suggestions of one in Australia. There's a very fragmentary bit of a pelvic bone in Australia, and there are some animals in South America which some people think may be an odd branch of the Tyrannosaurs. And if so, in both of these cases, then we have them on at least 5 continents, and they were basically worldwide.
All right.
If we look at them in a bit more detail, we start to see some differences crop up. None of these pictures are quite to scale, though certainly the one at the bottom is much bigger than the one at the top.
Oh yeah, I
So the
can
top
definitely
animal
see the
here is
differences.
a thing called Guanlong from China, and that
Yeah.
name means crested dragon. And as you can see, there's actually this big expanse of bone along the top of the skull. It has this little bony crest
Yeah.
which sticks up, and we
It
think
probably
this is
had
some
air
kind of
sacs.
signaling device, so something basically to show off and say how big and strong you were. And we can see there's some major transitions that happen with the tyrannosaurs. If we look back 100 million years, we see these animals are really quite small. Guanlong was a very
Yeah.
small animal, maybe about 2.5, 3 meters in total.
It wouldn't be
And
any
that
bigger
half
than
of
a
that is
dog.
tail. So you're not talking about
Or
a very large
maybe
animal.
it would be as big
If
as
we
a
look a
dog.
bit further down, we see
Or
that
maybe
there's
bigger.
a pattern starting to happen. The arms are getting a little bit smaller. T-Rex
What's
famously
that
has these
dinosaur
tiny,
in the
tiny
middle?
arms, but if we look back to its earliest ancestors, they have great big long arms and tiny little heads and a little neck. This is not
Yeah.
what we think of when we think of tyrannosaurs. But actually, if we look over time, we see there's these fairly obvious patterns of, as we go through, a small head becomes proportionally bigger and proportionally bigger. That
Oh, yeah.
long, thin neck
The
becomes
head is
shorter
getting
and stronger.
a lot
The
bigger.
body becomes generally deeper and more robust. The arms change from these great big long arms with great big long claws.
Yeah, but for real, you literally see here. Literally the middle species. It literally has these longer arms with 3 claws, and literally one jump later. I think this is a Albertosaur or Gorgosaur. It literally has these tiny freaking arms with 2 fingers. That is a big leap in evolution.
In the end, and 3 fingers down to a shorter
But
and
of
shorter
course,
arm.
it was a
and then
long journey
reduced
for
finally
these
to 2
animals, so-
fingers, and at the same time, the body is becoming proportionally big.
Yeah.
And as well, though you can't see it on this figure, the teeth are reducing in number. Tyrannosaurus and its nearest relatives, things like Tarbosaurus from Asia, basically have about 60 teeth. Things like D-Long...
That's
and
still
Guanlong,
bigger than
so
in
the
your
earliest
mouth.
Tyrannosaurs have closer to 100. So they're slowly cutting down...
Close
the
to
number of
100?
teeth.
Jeez.
They're getting bigger heads, shorter necks, a bigger body, shorter arms, and overall, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And so this is what happens when you put together 100 million years of evolution. So here we have Guanlong again
What?
with his little crest. knocking
Jesus Christ! I mean, Jesus. Wait, this is literally one of the first, literally the beginnings of the Tyrannosauridae family. Literally the very first beginning in the early Cretaceous. Guanlong, Proceratosaurus. Literally 100 million years later, this comes out. A great killing machine with literally the bite power to crush your car. Oh, that's amazing. This image is so cool. I literally want that. I want that as a picture on that wall behind me. Literally over there. I want that. Oh my god. Yeah, that's very, very interesting to see. My god.
around at about 3 meters long, maybe. And here we have Sue. To the
Oh,
same scale,
I
which
want
is
that
in
image here
Chicago.
in my room.
Sue is probably about 12.5 meters long and weighed right around 7-8 tons. So that's about 2 big elephants put together,
Jesus.
maybe 3 or 4 family cars in weight. And this is
What?
with a head every bit the size of Queenie here.
It's actually bigger than my
Because
car.
I've measured this, I actually fit through the mouth.
Of course it's bigger than
So
my car.
Everyone who's seen Jurassic Park, if you want to know if you can eat a lawyer, yes, they can, and in a single bite too. You fit. These things are absolutely enormous. But this is what the change we've seen over 100 million years. We've got massively, massively bigger in size. The head
Yeah.
shrunk, the neck shrunk, the body's got bigger, and the arms are absolutely tiny.
Yeah, literally, it went from a tiny predator in the forests of early Cretaceous, weighing no less than, I think, 100 kilograms, to literally a living, walking bipedal tank, weighing over 8 tons. Oh my god, that really just shows how beautiful evolution
Just for
is.
comparison, this is most of the forearm and hand of Albertosaurus. So Albertosaurus
Oh, really?
lived in Canada around 70 million years ago, so just before Tyrannosaurus. It was a little bit smaller, maybe around 10 meters or so.
It was still
And
around,
this
I
is the
think,
forelimb bones,
2-3
the radius and
tons.
ulnar, and the hand bones. And you can see it's basically the same size as my arm for an animal that was perhaps 10 meters long and around 3 tons.
Yeah,
This is a tiny, tiny reduced little arm. And even though these
the arms look
quite
small
vicious, actually
on a big
they're rather
animal,
less
but
curved and less sharp than we see in various
they are bigger than a
animals,
human
including
arm.
Wanlong, which suggests they're not actually really using them in the same way. So those arms were really reducing away and becoming kind of less and less effective.
Yeah.
So I've introduced,
But
you
they
to
were
about
still
30
very strong,
tyrannosaurs
though.
there, if very, very briefly indeed. But how do we know they're all tyrannosaurs? What actually unifies them together as a single group where we can confidently say this is one evolutionary clade that we can put together? Well, there's actually a couple of features
Well,
that show up quite well.
tell us.
And we see these on every single tyrannosaur. One of them are the nasal bones. These are the 2 bones that run along the top of the snout, and they basically make up most of the nose. And in basically all other dinosaurs, they're a pair, one on the left and one on the right.
Yeah.
If I hold up here my little velociraptor, so again, the nice
Velociraptor,
reference,
of course.
this is not going to fight this. This is
No,
how big Velociraptor
no,
actually
not
was.
in
I can pretty
a
much fit the
1,000
skull into
years.
Just the nose. It's not really a fair fight. But actually, if we look at the
Velociraptor
nasals here,
can't
you can
win
see there's 2
from
different
T-Rex.
bones, top and bottom, with a very obvious line separating the 2.
Yeah, yeah.
But in the Tyrannosaurs, in Queenie,
Oh, it
and
doesn't
if we go
have
back to
that.
the slides, you can see it on the skull there. They're actually a solid block. They're fused
Yeah.
together in the middle. So
Really?
they have this lovely solid pair. And that makes
Ah.
the skull very, very solid indeed. And this points to an animal with a very, very strong bite, even in small
That's
things like
why it had a
Wanlong,
12,000
and Delon
PSI
very
bite
early
force.
on, they had fused their nasal bones together and made a really solid skull. And there's no other carnivorous dinosaur that does this. We see that throughout the group. The other
Jesus.
thing that they have is the shape of their teeth, and in particular, the teeth at the front of the mouth. So we
Yeah.
have these lovely, big, biting teeth all the way down the
Ooh,
sides
yeah,
of
they
the
are
jaw.
scary.
Very, very large, very, very strong indeed. But if you look round to the front, you can see that actually they're really quite small. They're not very big at all compared to the side ones, and they're
yeah.
all kind of scrunched together. They're a little group, kind of all forced up. And
Yeah.
this is unique. We see these in the
Well, the big
Tyrannosaurs
teeth
and in
are
the
for-
Phaeons. And not only that, but their shape
Are for
is
the-
quite unique as well.
the
So if we can
killer's
get this
bite,
up
right?
on the camera, hopefully we can see this. Here we go. So this is another cast of one. There's here a very, very long root with just a little crown at the top. It's very, very thick. It's kind of short and fat. But you can see the rear
Wow.
side is almost completely flattened off. Whereas
really?
the rest of it is really quite nice and rounded. So if you cut this in half and look down on top, it would look like a capital D. So these are what are called the D-shaped teeth of Tyrannosaurs. And if we compare that to the teeth of many other carnivores, so this is an allosaur, you can see that
Allosaurs,
actually this
yeah.
is very, very thin and blade-like
Ah,
on all
yeah, yeah,
sides, and totally different in shape.
Oh, yeah, now I can see the
with
difference.
the Tyrannosaur teeth. And again, this is what we see in all Tyrannosaurs. We see these in the earliest forms right the way through to Tyrannosaurus. They have these very, very small D-shaped teeth right at the front of the jaw. And that gives them a
Yeah.
series of unique adaptations, which we'll get onto in a little bit of just how they function.
All right, all right.
So this is one of the ways we can tell Tyrannosaurs apart. If you ever find yourself in a museum or lost in the desert and you manage to find a new skull of a dinosaur and you see that it has fused nasals and little D-shaped teeth at the front,
It's a
congratulations,
Tyrannosaur.
You found a Tyrannosaur.
Yeah, I will do that.
So that tells us what they are, but what makes them special?
This
Why
summer,
are
I will
they
go to America.
interesting and unique?
And I will find one.
Well, there's a number of features, and one of them actually is the kind of shape of the skull. Tyrannosaurus is particularly exaggerated in this sense, though it's true of the Tyrannosaurs generally. So here again, actually you can see
What
the
makes them
beautiful
special?
fused nasals. You can see there's
Oh,
no...
and you can also see this incredibly binocular vision. Eyes would have been around here. Yep. It would have, yeah. Here you can really see that binocular vision. I wouldn't even dare to stare that animal right in the eyes. I would be literally dead as hell.
line up the middle, they're absolutely solid. And here we're looking straight up the nose, exactly the view that the audience
my
has at the front
God.
here, straight down. With those two lovely big eye sockets. And what happens when you fill in those eye sockets?
You get binocular vision.
You get this.
Yeah.
Which is always
Wait,
good for a
what?
laugh, but it tells you something about their shape. These are binocular animals. These are animals with big, forward-facing eyes that are
Yeah.
looking at things.
Same as we
This
have.
means it's a carnivore. It is judging distances. It wants to know how far away it is from something that it is.
Yeah, of course, because herbivores have the eyes more towards the side of their head, and the predators have the eyes in a more forward-facing direction. That's very common in the natural world.
Very interested in.
Well,
And this
some
is a totally
carnivorous
different
dinosaurs
arrangement
didn't
of
have
the
that,
head
but
to
still.
what you would see in herbivores, sheep, cows, rabbits.
Yep.
They all have eyes on the side of the head because they want to look around them and want to avoid things that are going to eat them, not something that is coming to be eaten.
Exactly.
But what you can see here as well, though, is also the size of those eyes.
They are
eyes of
massive.
Tyrannosaurs are absolutely enormous. They're going to be about this big. That's how
That's
big
literally-
an eyeball you need to fit in the skull.
That's literally
Now,
as
even
big
though
as your
this is
face.
absolutely huge, it doesn't look very big on the head, simply because the head is so absolutely enormously outsized.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at eyesight, one of the critical factors as to how good your eyesight is just how big your eyes are. This is whether or not you want to have a very refined sense of vision or whether you want to see in the dark. So you can think
Yeah.
about things both like vultures and owls. Vultures have extremely good eyesight. Owls see very well in the dark.
Yeah, because the bigger the eyes, the better you can see in the dark. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that for sure.
Either way, you want a big eye, and basically the bigger the eye you have, the better your vision. And it's all about
Yeah,
absolute
alright, the better your
size,
vision.
not relative size. So actually, Tyrannosaurus, believe it or not, has the largest eye that we know of for any terrestrial animal ever. This is an animal with superb eyesight.
Oh my god.
So just to bust another Jurassic Park era myth, this is not something that can't see you if you don't move. This has got the greatest eyesight
What's
of any
up, Primal
animal on
Films?
land ever that we can know of.
Welcome.
Yes, it does suggest it could see you
Take some
quite well,
popcorn
sitting still is
and watch
probably not a
alongside
very
us.
big defense. But also, on top of that, the skull is extremely wide. If we compare Tyrannosaurus to other large carnivores, this is a thing called Carcharodontosaurus.
Oh
which is
yeah,
unique.
now you can see, because Carcharodontosaurus has a thinner snout, so it probably lacked that superb binocular vision. You can literally see the T-Rex. You can see it very obvious here. It's very obviously, yeah. You can literally see that this dinosaur had binocular vision. I don't know about Carcharodontosaurus. It probably lacked binocular vision. I never heard that eyesight is cool. Yeah, that was my fault. I was a little bit confused there. Alright, so it is the bigger the eyes, the better your vision, not the better you can see in the dark. Alright, that was my fault.
Nearly as big as
Sorry for that.
T-Rex. This is a very, very large animal indeed. And you can see the skull is extremely narrow. The eyes still point
Yeah.
forwards, but the skull as a whole is very narrow. It is a similar size skull to the one we see on the right, which, as
Yeah.
you can see, is slightly crushed. This is one of the problems of working in paleontology. Even things like whole Tyrannosaurus skulls tend to get crushed after a few tens of million years, but you can still see the overall width of that skull is very considerably wider. This is a very, very broad head indeed. And this is one of the other trends
yeah,
that we see.
it really
the early
is.
Tyrannosaurs, not so much. But by the time you start getting to the really big guys, they have this very, very, very broad head. If you're getting very big,
Carcharodontosaurus had very bad vision.
12 plus meters.
Well, it didn't have
7,
that
8
binocular
tons maybe.
vision.
And Tyrannosaurs actually
But it wouldn't
grew
be as good as a
very
T-Rex, I agree
fast.
with that one.
Dinosaurs actually generally grew quite quickly to get to adult size, but even within them, Tyrannosaurus itself actually is a bit of an outlier. If we look at some lovely growth curves here,
Yeah.
we can basically see that
I already have seen that one in a video of, I think Red Raptor writes, from a Dino Dog review. The growth rate of a Tyrannosaurus is literally very much the same as us humans, because as you can see here, the first 10 years of its life, it stays at a slow, steady growth rate. That's what most of us have as well. And when they enter puberty, they grow oh my god, jeez. They grow so abnormally fast. Well, that's what we do as well. Especially the boys, they grow a lot in their teenage years. And as we can see here, they only stop growing hair till their mid-20s, 25 years or so. Then they really stop growing. All right. So yeah, that's pretty much the same as humans. Yeah,
So
very
overall,
interesting actually.
nearly Tyrannosaurus-sized animals, Daspletosaurus, Gorgosaurus, and Alpha.
Also, literally between 10 and 20 years, it literally jumps from I think, well, yeah, maybe 400 kilograms or so, 300. It jumps from 300 kilograms, literally. In 10 years, it jumps from that to almost freaking 6 tons. My god, that's
Bertosaurus
incredibly
from
fast.
North America took about 15 years or so, maybe 20 years to get to full size, and that was 2 or so tons. Some of the bigger ones are
Yeah,
probably rather
my
larger.
god.
Tyrannosaurus, however, goes through this beautiful growth spurt around 10 to 20 years where it absolutely balloons. It gets very, very large
Yeah.
very, very quickly. So this is an extremely fast
This
growing
is,
animal.
I think this could be my growth rate, because when I was around 12 years old, I started to eat very, very, a lot of food, and I grew extremely fast, but I also got a little fat. But eventually, I decided to try some fitness, and now I literally am a fit boy. That's my story of weight gaining.
And that gives you a real sense of
Quick,
just what's
interesting
kind of
fact
going on
in between.
metabolically to grow at that kind of rate. I mean, this is the maximum growth spurt that humans have, sustained over multiple years and in the range of things that are tons in weight. But what's really quite neat is that they don't just grow fast and grow very big, but they actually change shape quite dramatically as they do so.
Yeah.
This perhaps isn't so much of a surprise. If you think about humans, if you think about any animal,
Yeah.
most things actually change shape a bit as they grow. You know, we famously think of puppies and kittens and babies as having big heads and big hands and big feet, and then you kind of grow into them as you grow up. So it shouldn't be a
Thank
big
you,
shock
Bronte.
that dinosaurs change shape as well.
Oh,
but
good.
it's noticeable just how much they change
Award-winning
when it
and
comes to the
inspiring story.
Tyrannosaurs.
Thank you for that.
So this is a skeleton on the right, which is known as Jane.
Jane.
And Jane is, as you can see, about half grown, at least in terms of length. So about 5-6 meters long or so. And yet, the head is absolutely tiny compared to that of a full-size Tyrannosaurus.
Yeah.
So whereas we think of
It is
babies
really
usually
tiny.
as being big-headed,
And it
then
has,
takes a
oh my
while
god,
for
it
them
really
to,
has long
Your
legs.
body kind of grows into your head or vice versa. We see here that actually the young one has a small head, and by the time it's got to full size, its head has got proportionally much, much bigger. We
Yeah.
also see that Jane, though Tyrannosaurs generally have long legs, Jane has really quite long legs, a really quite
For its
slender
size, it
body, and
has
quite a
really long
slender
legs.
neck. So this points to an
And a
animal
longer
that's
neck,
doing
yeah.
something actually quite different. The head is built differently, the legs are built differently. This is an animal which is running in a different way and probably
Yep.
feeding in a different way.
Probably,
So we're
yeah.
not just seeing them growing, and we're not just seeing them changing in shape, but the implication for this is that they're also fundamentally changing in their ecology and their behavior as well. And therefore, actually, in some ways, you could treat these as two different species. The big adults are living and hunting and acting in a way that the smaller juveniles aren't. And they're shifting from one to the other as they grow. Well, this is not actually that unusual. We see exactly the same thing in various snakes, lizards, crocodiles, and other relatively slow-growing animals that are around today. But it really shifts the dynamic of how we think of these species interacting with others in an ecosystem when we know that they can have such dramatic changes. One thing that's really important here is these legs, and in particular these feet, because this is another really special adaptation that we see in Tyrannosaurs.
Wait, the feet.
And this goes by the magnificently tongue-twisting name of the arctometatarsalien condition.
Oh my god. Arctometatarsalien condition. That's a mouthful of words.
I know, it's lovely.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's
really
lovely.
worth having a word like that because it's easier to say arctometatarsalien, or at least when you've said it quite a few times, than it is to say that special condition where the weird metatarsal is kind of shrunk at one end but wide at the bottom, and it's kind of pinched between the other two, and it changes how the foot functions.
So much information. Jesus Christ. Alright, that's pretty cool, Primal Films. That's really interesting. Dilophosaurus, animal research. Dilophosaurus is indeed an amazing animal. Great work, man. That's very cool.
Because that's what it means. But arctometatarsalien is actually easier. So, if we look at a Tyrannosaurus foot, this is the foot from a nearly complete or a nearly full-size Tyrannosaurus. It's a right foot. So you have 4 toes. The first toe, what for us, sticks out at the back a little.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the dew claw that you get on a cat or a dog. And then 3 walking toes. And these are the metatarsals, the bane of the footballer. We're all forever hearing about broken
Wait. You can literally see that the middle toe here is literally squashed into the middle. Oh my god. Poor middle toe. Hi, Dino Nerds. Welcome.
So we walk on the
Welcome to the
flats
stream.
of our feet. We have both our toes on the ground and we have our
Appreciate that you're here.
metatarsals on the ground. We walk across the whole foot. The dinosaurs, and indeed the birds and many other animals, just walk on the toes.
Wait, that wasn't a dew claw.
Elevated
Really?
the foot, and they have the metatarsals, or in case of my hand, metacarpals, suspended, if you like, upright. And this actually already automatically kind of extends the length of the leg. It gives you a longer leg to run on. So this is actually going to speed you up because it means you're taking longer steps for every pace. But if we look to the middle, what you'd see on most dinosaurs, in fact, the vast majority of them, in particular the carnivores, is the 3 metatarsals for the 3 running toes would all look like this. They'd be lovely, long, big blocks.
Thought it was.
Nice vertical strips. But we see here, this middle one kind of vanishes, and it's being crushed between the other 2, and it looks like it's kind of disappeared and like it's going to come out the back. But actually it doesn't. It really is being crushed. And we can see that.
That's actually just what I said.
Switch back up to the slides. There we go.
Whoa.
So here it is. This is just the middle one. And you can
That's
see
the middle toe.
The top just kind of vanishes. It just absolutely disappears. I've actually got a real one here. So this is on loan from the Royal Tyrrell Museum in Alberta.
Wait,
it's
that's a
actually
real one?
from another dinosaur. It's not actually a Tyrannosaur.
Oh,
but
okay.
2 or 3 different groups all evolved an arctometarsal. And you can see here, totally crushed in. This is where the other 2 would attach.
Oh my god.
And if that shows up, you can see the cross-section. It's this tiny squished triangle. So it really has completely crushed, effectively, that middle toe, or that middle metatarsal. And this is actually a really interesting feature, because this totally changes how the foot moves. If you can imagine, you want to be a long-distance runner.
Yeah.
Every time you hit the ground, every time you take a step, your bones are all slightly moving.
Yeah.
And that represents lost energy. Because if they don't, what you actually tend to do is start compressing some of your ligaments and some of your joints. And as you step off again, that springs back and you get a little bit of energy back.
Yeah.
So what you really want to do is to minimize all of the movement.
Have
everything as firmly and tightly together as possible.
Because of course, that takes energy. Yeah, now I get it.
Every little bit of movement is just wasted energy.
And
if you do this with a lovely big wavy bone up the middle, with 2 bones locking it in either side,
that really helps.
You're effectively holding the whole foot together.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about an animal that might be 6 or so tons, every single footstep can potentially lose a lot of energy with the bones just seesawing either side of each other.
Squashed foot
and you having
bone
to
looks
hold
like
them
an
together.
adaptation for
If you
absorbing
lock them
shock.
up into a single block, that doesn't happen. Some of that energy will then go
yeah.
into your joints, and you'll get it back on the next
Now we
step.
know why.
And so this is an adaptation that we see in 3 or 4 groups of dinosaurs, and they're all long-distance runners. They were all very efficient over long distance.
So every dinosaur that has that, I'm not going to try to pronounce that name of that middle toe. Arctometatarsal. Yeah, that was the word. So every dinosaur with an... I literally forgot the word already. But every dinosaur with that kind of a toe is a long-distance runner? Alright, I didn't know that. That is some great new information.
They usually have very long legs, a light build, they have a relatively short thigh bone, which allows them to move the legs repeatedly, and that makes them both quick and efficient over long distances.
Ah, alright.
So despite the fact that a full-size Tyrannosaurus was clearly a very bulky animal, they were also pretty fast.
Yeah.
The estimates,
But...
speed estimates are really difficult for an animal that's been dead for 65 million years.
Yeah, but... I heard from a lot of people who said that even a fit person is faster than a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but I think the T-Rex can run longer. Of course, humans are already great long-distance runners, because we are great marathon runners. But I think a T-Rex still could hunt you down. Of course, humans are faster, we can also run long distances, but a T-Rex will hold its speed for a longer time period. Yeah, I think that's the case, actually.
Which we have no muscles. But bearing all of that in mind,
Let me know if I'm wrong or not.
something like a full-size Tyrannosaurus was probably reaching speeds comparable to an Olympic sprinter.
Olympic sprinter,
All right.
alright.
This is an animal which isn't specialized for sprinting, it's specialized for long-distance running.
It would definitely
So
need a lot of
holding
stamina,
that speed
yeah,
probably
indeed.
for quite a considerable period of time. You could not outrun this animal.
Alright, now we know for sure you can't outrun a T-Rex. That's all I wanted to know. Alright, so it has the speed of an Olympic sprinter, and it could hold that speed for quite a long time. So I'm sorry, guys, if you ever try to race against a T-Rex, I'm afraid you are going to lose that fight. No, sorry.
No chance. Not even.
I thought for a second I was
And you
faster
also
than a
couldn't hide,
T-Rex.
'cause it could see you very well as well.
Oh yeah,
This is a really, really...
because if it wasn't fast enough for you, it literally has these big eyes with that binocular vision. It can literally keep track of you while you're running. Yeah.
And more so than that, it's really, really effective because of the way its skull is built.
Yeah.
So here we have some beautiful CT scans of a pair
Is
of
that
skulls of very, very large
Giganotosaurus?
dinosaurs indeed. On the left, once again, we have a Tyrannosaurus, and on the right, we have this huge carnivore from South America called Giganotosaurus.
Yep. Instantly
As
recognizes
you can see,
it.
they're scaled to the same size. In fact, they're not scaled to the same size. They are the same size. Giganotosaurus has a skull about the same size as Tyrannosaurus, but look at the difference in the amount of bone which is present in each of them.
Wait. How much bone there is in each skull? Wait, what? Alright, I don't get this one. Oh, wait. Yeah, the skull of the T-Rex is just much thicker and more... Everything is more solid, I think.
Tyrannosaurus is basically this solid block.
Yeah,
Yes, it's got
solid
some
block.
holes in it, but there's a huge amount of bone here, and the lower jaw is almost entirely solid. Compare that to Giganotosaurus.
Giganotosaurus
It's this really
has-
thin lower jaw with a large hole in it. This
Yeah, it has
huge anterior hole
very
in
big
the
holes in its
and a
skull.
very large one at the back as well.
But wasn't Giganotosaurus literally built for speed? Because, yeah, I think Giganotosaurus was more built for speed than the T-Rex. T-Rex was more built for brute power. Defense most of those in Giganos. Yeah, alright. Now I see why.
There's not a lot of bone there. It's really quite
T-Rex just
thin
has
in places.
smaller
Despite the fact that this
holes,
is a huge and powerful animal,
etc.
it has nothing like the build of a Tyrannosaurus.
Giganotosaurus was built
It
for speed.
also
Yeah.
doesn't have the fused nasals, which help make the skull even stronger. And it also doesn't have the teeth. If we can switch back to the viewer, again, I've shown you the little teeth at the front, but now let's have a look at the big killing teeth down the side. So this is a maxillary tooth, so one of the big teeth down the side. Oh, sorry, can we flick up?
Nice work.
Lovely, thank you.
Great.
So here is one of the big teeth, so this would be down the
Oh
side
my.
of the jaw. And look at this thing.
What?
It's absolutely...
Literally, compare it to this hand. This teeth is... Oh. This tooth is literally bigger than than an entire human hand. Oh
solid.
my
This is the
god.
crown.
It's literally
Here,
as big...
again, with a
It's
very
bigger
large
than a
root.
banana.
It's absolutely solid. It's almost circular in cross-section. It's nearly as wide as it is long. And again, if we compare this, this is a Tyrannosaur. It is from a slightly smaller dinosaur, but there's the comparative width. It is a
Wow.
fraction of the width.
Jeez.
And of course, if you make something much, much
That's
thicker,
a difference.
you're going to make it much, much stronger. So this is a tooth which is extremely powerful, perfectly capable of biting very deep and very hard into things, even very, very hard things. I
Ooh,
actually
alright.
have, sadly it's only the tip, but I actually have a real Tyrannosaur tooth here. Again, this is on loan from the Tyrrell Museum. If we can just zoom in a bit. There we go. Lovely.
Oh,
So
great
it's just
zoom
the
in.
tip. This is probably from a Gorgosaurus from Alberta. This was found by one of my students last year
Gorgosaurus?
when we were out in Canada. And you can
That's a
still
small
see there's
teeth.
actually a little line of serrations along the back. So even though they have this
Oh,
enormous
mega
kind of
zoom in.
puncturing tooth, they do still have a lovely little train of serrations along the back.
Yeah.
So there is still a cutting
Yeah, you can see
edge
that.
front
Yeah,
and
over
rear.
there.
And again, look at the cross section. Very, very round. This is an extremely solid and powerful tooth. So we have a super large skull in the big animals.
Oh my god.
They have super large teeth, and they're well built with lots of bone and various fused parts to give them enormous strength.
Yeah.
And when you add that together, you get an animal with colossal bite power, more so than any other dinosaur that we know of. And then you start seeing things like this. This may not look like very
Wait, what's that?
much. In fact, it all looks like a bit of a mess. But this is
It looks like a bit of a mess. Allosaurus like a Giganotosaur. Yeah, really? Alright, so apparently Allosaurians like Giganotosaurus had hair similar teeth to monitor lizards. Yeah, they were more made for slicing and tearing down flesh, and T-Rex indeed had these more bone-crushing teeth. Alright, makes sense. Carcharodontosaur teeth were more effect, I believe. Well, I don't know that for sure. But yeah, I don't know that actually. I don't know that for sure, but wait, didn't Carcharodontosaur teeth or effective? Were more effective. Well, I think didn't Carcharodontosaurs had the blood loss effect? Literally, they bite into a prey and they wait until blood loss does the job. While a T-Rex could literally just one-shot its prey. Again, I don't know for sure. Please let me know.
We're looking at it from underneath.
Will be very
as if
interesting to
the
know.
animal was lying on its back. We've only got about half of it, so here would be the backbone. Here are various extensions, and then the major part of the pelvis is here. For a start, a fairly large part of this is missing, and it's missing in a rather suspicious way because it's got a kind of little serrated edge to it, almost as if 5 or 6 big very strong, powerful, bitey things had knocked a hole in it and broken the end off. You can guess what that might have been.
All right.
More so, it's got a whole load of holes and gouges and grooves in it.
Yeah, I can
All of
see
which
that.
are suspiciously very, very broad compared to their length. In other words, they look an awful lot like the cross-sectional shape of a Tyrannosaurus. And in fact, the researchers, this is a photo from Greg Erickson in Florida, they actually took some lovely liquid rubber cement, the kind that the dentists use to take a mold of your teeth, and they poured it into those holes, and when you pull it out, it's almost a perfect copy of a Tyrannosaur tooth.
Oh, wait,
The
really?
teeth are not just capable of biting deep into bones and leaving huge holes in them.
Whoa,
They're
that's
so good at
that's
they
cool.
actually leave
That's
a
very
mold
cool.
of their tooth behind in a lump of solid bone. This is an extraordinarily powerful animal in terms of its bite power.
Yeah,
And this
the
is an
strongest
adaptation
bite
that
force
we
of
do not
any
see
land
from
predator
any
ever.
other animal, which is really quite.
12,000
There's a
psi.
really interesting aside to this.
That's
study,
insane.
Which is trying to infer what the animal was doing. There is a famous debate, which I really wish would be over, but if it isn't over already, I hope to demonstrate it, as to whether or not Tyrannosaurus and the Tyrannosaurs generally were predators or scavengers. Now, this is very actually hard to show, because obviously seeing and identifying those kinds of behaviors in the fossil record is very, very difficult. It's very hard to come up with any evidence which will show it either way.
Yeah.
And Greg and his colleagues suggested that this may have been a scavenging event. Animals don't usually chew apart a very old pelvis unless there's not a lot of food going, and that kind of implies that it was perhaps scavenging. But it's very difficult to demonstrate that this might actually be the case. It certainly could have been, and I think it's quite likely, but it's also true that things like leopards, if they manage to kill a large antelope, they'll spend several days eating on it, and by the end they...
But I thought leopards literally try to drag the prey literally up a tree. But yeah, they don't eat the whole prey right away. They, of course, do it in a much longer time span. Extreme fire force is strongly indicative of ambush predators like crocodiles, yeah. Yeah, that's true, because crocodiles really have a very, very, very big or strong bite force. And of course, T-Rex had that too. So, I assume that the T-Rex might be an ambush predator, because, yeah, it could literally catch its prey by surprise. I'm pretty sure Carcharodontosaurus could open and close its jaw pretty fast, so it can do a lot of damage fast. That's actually very interesting, because also dinosaurs like Allosaurus they didn't have a very strong bite force, but what they could do is they could open their jaws very, very far open, literally like this, and then literally strike their head into the prey like a battle axe or something. Literally just, you open the jaws like this, and you literally just slam your head into the prey, and you literally just tack, literally like that. That would be very, very painful, actually, and that, I think, causes the blood loss effect, I think.
They will be chewing on the last little leftover bits, and that's not scavenging, it's just taken them a long time to get through it. What you'd really need to try and demonstrate.
Actually, by this outdated, I think.
Very special specimen
I don't know about that, actually. I think it's
dinosaur
somewhat accurate.
Before the Tyrannosaur got to it. And I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity to work on one such specimen.
Oh, it has been debunked, alright. Now we know for sure.
In Japan. This specimen is actually from
Mongolia, take my words back.
In Japan, and it's the humerus, so the upper arm bone of a hadrosaur, one of the duck-billed dinosaurs. And what all these black arrows point to is various different bite marks along it. In fact, this thing has been extremely well bitten by a large tyrannosaur, and this would be a thing called Tarbosaurus, which lived in the late Cretaceous of Mongolia.
Allosaurus bite force was incorrectly calculated, really?
Bites at each end, and then this.
Alright, that's new information for me.
Along the front here,
alright.
Groove after groove after groove after groove stored in it. You can't see it too clearly there, but if we go to this close-up, you can see here, there's three lovely little bites put together, nice little grooves in the bone, and another one here, and here, and here,
Ooh,
and
some
here,
little
and
bite
here, and
marks.
here. About 50 of them. This is a huge number of bites. But they're also quite distinctive, because although this was clearly a very large animal, we're lucky with some of the big tyrannosaurs that often they're the only large carnivore in their environment. If you find a bone in Africa with a whole bunch of big bites on it from a large carnivore, it's often hard to say, was that a lion or a leopard or a cheetah, or was it a hunting dog or one of the various species of hyena? With tyrannosaurs, you've often only got tyrannosaurs around.
Yeah.
So you kind of know what did the bite, even if you have no direct evidence. And yet, even though these are very strong and powerful bites that have gone into the bone, the teeth don't appear to be that big, and they're also really, really close together. And this takes us all the way back
to our
defining characteristic of tyrannosaurs. They have this little cluster of teeth at the front. They're all the same length. They're all very close to each other.
The front teeth of the Tyrannosaur.
Really quite strong and solid, and with these little flat backs. And this is going to be perfect for grinding across the surface of a bone. I suspect that everyone in this audience has at some time taken a custard cream or a bourbon biscuit, and you take the top one off. Yes, we all know this is going, and you put it in your mouth, and then you scrape the cream off.
No, who does that? I literally eat the cookie or that thing, the biscuit, literally, I just put it into my mouth and I just eat it. I'm not one of those people who literally eats. Imagine you have an Oreo. I'm not one of those people who eats the cream of the Oreo first and then the cookie. I'm not that person. I just eat the cookie whole. I just put it in my mouth and I just eat it. That's it. Simple as that.
Yep.
Not going into further details.
That's what tyrannosaurs are doing. And I know that's what they're doing because the interesting thing is if you flip this bone over, the bites on the underside aren't in the same direction as the ones on the top.
Really?
So it is not biting top and bottom together.
Oh, it's
pulling. Because if it was, all of the marks would line up.
It's biting like that?
They go in different directions.
Wait,
and
what?
Tyrannosaurs are not like us. They can't move their jaws like this. They can only go up and down. So they're just using the upper teeth. And that's why
they are
you
just
get this
scratching?
very distinctive set of marks that are large, showing the teeth are large, but they're very close together.
All right.
And they're all the same depth. Whereas if you look along the side of the jaw, all the teeth are different lengths. If they were doing this with the big teeth in the side of the mouth, there'd be big spaces between them, and one tooth would contact, but then the next one's shorter, so it doesn't do anything. It's only if they're using their upper teeth and drawing it along the surface will you actually get this effect.
All right.
It's also interesting that the only place they do this on the bone, at least on the duckbill, is this part here, which is where all of the big chest muscles attach to the upper arm. And they don't appear on other parts of the bone. This animal was feeding selectively. It's not some mindless big bone cruncher. It's not like you see crocodiles feeding where they just tear off big chunks of everything and bash it about and swallow it.
All right,
this animal only bit in a certain way on a certain part of the bone where it could get muscle. This is a very careful feeder. These animals can selectively choose how they bite and where they bite in order to feed. And they have a suite of adaptations in the skull to allow them to do that. They're really quite a specialist animal in lots of ways. So this really tells us something about their behavior. But there's another factor to this skeleton as well. I've only shown you this one forelimb bone, but in fact that hadrosaur is known from an almost complete skeleton. We have the skull, the neck, the ribs, the legs, the tail. We've even got patches of the original skin preserved. It is in beautiful condition.
Oh, skin preserved.
But interestingly,
that's cool.
Several bits of it show evidence of having been damaged by water. This is an animal that actually lived most in the desert, but it was found in what we know was a fossil water channel and that had been partially buried. And only one bone of this incomplete skeleton shows the damage. And it's the upper arm, well, it's the humerus, but it's also the bone that was sitting uppermost. So this animal was keeled over on its side and only one bone was sat out. And that bone didn't show much evidence of water damage, but it did show evidence of having kind of been beaten up by wind. They do leave very distinctive traces on the bone.
Okay,
When you
okay.
combine this information, it becomes fairly clear what must have happened. We've seen what a Tyrannosaurus will do to a pelvis if it gets hold of it. So why has it left this entire skeleton, which even has skin left on it, so must have had all the muscles and other tissues attached, not a bite, one bone, 53 bites on it. What happened was
Whoa.
this hadrosaur had died somewhere else, perhaps in the water and drowned, washed downstream onto a sandbank, showing evidence of water transport and damage,
Yeah.
then been buried, and only one arm was left on the surface. Then a tyrannosaur fed upon it.
Okay.
So now we know this is scavenging. This animal was scavenged because it was dead before it was bitten.
All
so
right.
we can put one thing to bed. Did
Or-
tyrannosaurs
okay.
scavenge things?
Yes. Yes, of course,
Excellent.
but also hunted
Now the other
things.
half.
We're not going with the Jack Horner theory that T-Rex was only a scavenger. Get that shit out of the way. T-Rex was also a hunter. David Hone, I absolutely love you.
Did they predate on things?
Jeez.
Well, here we have yet more hadrosaurs. This time we have a pair of tail vertebrae.
Yeah, the T-Rex bit in
So
the
two
tail.
bones from about halfway down
I
the
think.
tail, and they fuse together. There's a major injury or illness here which has caused the bones to fuse. They're actually really quite common in various dinosaurs. They have lots of little bones in the tail, and if you bash them up a bit, they tend to form a big lump. But in
Okay.
this case, as you can see, hopefully what the pencil is pointing to
Yeah, that's literally a T-Rex bite mark. Oh my god.
is a weird nodule in the middle that's a bit of a funny shape. And so
Yeah,
they
look at here.
X-rayed this.
It actually has
And when
depth.
you X-ray
That's a
it,
T-Rex
first of all, you
tooth.
can see the original join, which is now sealed up between the two bones. But then you can also see something which is a very different density and to the rest of the bone, because it's a different color. Excuse me, and also has a fairly distinctive shape.
Yeah.
It's a shape we've all seen before.
Yes.
Cross-sectional shape of a Tyrannosaurus tooth. Which
Exactly.
Is nearly as thick as
It
is
bit
long
the
and
Hadrosaur's
slightly
tail,
tapering at the
but
back.
failed to finish the kill.
That's a Tyrannosaurus tooth, which is inside the bone, and the bone has grown over it.
Yeah, and you can't heal when you're dead. So it means that the Tyrannosaur bit the Hadrosaur's tail, but he didn't finish the kill. So that's direct evidence of hunting. Yes, we actually saw it.
That takes days, maybe weeks, possibly
Jack Horner,
months to
you're
happen.
wrong.
This was a hadrosaur that a tyrannosaur bit into it, pulled a tooth out, and left it, presumably because it got away. And over time, it healed. It was a nasty wound. Lots of new bone formed to try and heal up that wound. And one of the things that it did was cover the tooth.
Yeah.
Now, technically, that's not a predation event because clearly it survived. But I think you'd be hard-pushed to come up with many other explanations for why a herbivorous dinosaur had the tooth of a tyrannosaur jammed into its tail.
Yeah.
This also isn't the only specimen we have like this. There's actually another specimen which has a tyrannosaur tooth embedded in the lower leg, and there's yet another hadrosaur which has one of its tail vertebrae has the top broken off in a pattern which is very suspiciously similar to the shape that we saw in the Triceratops pelvis. So in other words, it looks like it's been bitten through. So we have three different incidents here where it looks like a tyrannosaur has bitten a herbivore and that herbivore has escaped.
Yeah.
But I really think we can fairly convincingly call this predation. So were
Yeah,
tyrannosaurs
that literally
scavengers?
proves
Yes.
predation.
Were tyrannosaurs predators? Yes.
Yes.
They were both. This is not a big surprise. The vast
Yeah, and probably most carnivorous dinosaurs were scavengers and hunters at the same time. I mean, if you could scavenge meat, it's literally a free meal. Literally.
majority of carnivores alive today are quite happy to hunt food down when they can, but also to pick up a free meal when it's
Yeah,
done.
why
We can
say
begin
no to a
put
free
the
meal?
two together. Where on the spectrum these things sit, that becomes harder to say, particularly when we've got the situation as we've seen, where they're actually changing size and shape over time. Maybe some were better adapted for some jobs than perhaps others. There's also another pattern that's feeding in here. So these 3 specimens, the one I've mentioned here and the other 2, another with a tooth inside it and the other one with the snapped vertebrae,
Yeah.
they're all quite young animals.
Oh,
Maybe only
alright.
about half size for hadrosaurs. And
Oh.
in fact, there are several evidence tyrannosaurs with stomach contents, where we actually have the fossilized remains of their last meal. Those are also of juvenile dinosaurs. And indeed, we also have a Tyrannosaurus coprolite. Does everyone know what a coprolite is?
No.
Is everyone going to let me admit it? This is fossilized poo. We have fossil poo for a Tyrannosaurus, and
Oh.
it has bits of bone from baby dinosaurs in it.
All right.
Now that's rather interesting that we have
it's
5
poo,
or 6
or-
of these records. And
Yeah,
every
now we
single
know.
one is a juvenile, because what you always see in documentaries and films is you have to have a full-size adult Tyrannosaurus fighting a big full-size adult Triceratops.
Yeah, that's... Oh, I pressed the mute button. That's literally freaking every dinosaur movie, or... Yeah, literally T-Rex fighting against one big Triceratops, or one big Hadrosaur or something. It's literally every freaking time. It's the T-Rex. Every time, man. Every time.
And that's a really bad idea, because a big Triceratops weighs about the same as T-Rex.
Yeah.
And their horns are about this long.
Yeah, exactly. So even a T-Rex wouldn't mess, well, not in the first, well, not the first time, but even a T-Rex would think twice before challenging a fit male Triceratops that literally weighs as much as a full-grown T-Rex.
It is an extraordinarily
good luck with
dangerous
that.
animal.
Yeah.
And anyone who's
And of
seen
course,
any
herbivores have a
the
temper.
Great natural history documentaries. What's the one thing you hear on the voiceover time over time? The lions target the ill, the old, and the young. They don't go after big, healthy, strong adults.
Well, I wouldn't
Because
do it as well.
any major injury to a carnivore is generally fatal.
Most predators go for
They will
small,
not be
young,
able to
injured,
hunt
or
and
ill
they're
prey.
going to
Yeah.
die.
That's
So what do
just
they
the most
target?
logical.
Things they can get hold of easily that may not fight back. And that leads us to juveniles. What's another big feature we know of dinosaurs? Here is a cluster of dinosaur eggs from central China.
Whoa.
They laid lots of eggs. We had very large numbers of juveniles out there. Some of the bigger dinosaurs may have been laying
If
50
you try to
plus
go for
eggs
something
at a
easier to
time
hunt
and may
before
have laid
taking out a fully grown
multiple
Triceratops,
nests
yeah,
in a year.
exactly.
Compare that
You
to
just
elephants that
don't
have
mess with a healthy
one baby
Triceratops
every 4 to 5
fully grown.
years.
That's a no-go.
And an even larger dinosaur like a large hadrosaur may have had 100 eggs a year for multiple years in a row. There are
What?
an awful lot of small dinosaurs out there to be eaten.
My God.
And it's certainly a better option to try and tackle those than a lovely big adult, which is also covered in giant horns or armor. It's much more dangerous.
Yeah.
It also fits with what
It's
we
just
see
not
in terms
worth
of general
the
patterns.
risk.
One of the great defenses for animals of all sizes and shapes against predators is hanging around together in groups. You're more likely to see some danger coming. And it's very noticeable that we now have dozens of specimens of Triceratops. All the adults are found on their own. We've only ever found juveniles twice, and both times they're in groups. So the adults appear
groups?
to be solitary. They probably don't have too much to worry about, in the same that a buffalo or rhino generally doesn't worry too much about lions. But the juveniles are vulnerable, and they're hanging around together. So we see a fundamental shift in the ecology of herbivores as a result of the threat of carnivores. A couple of last things just to bring up about...
The last
tyrannosaurs
things
before we
already?
finish up.
Come on, man. I'm having so much fun.
This is part of the tale of Dilong. If you remember back to the start, Dilong is one of the early tyrannosaurs from
Yeah,
China.
yeah.
It's around 150 or so million
Wait.
years old.
Are those feathers these things here?
So from the early part of the tyrannosaurs, it's just a bit of the tail. So here's one tailbone, here's the second tailbone, and there's all these lovely little stripy bits on top. Those stripy bits are feathers.
Yes! I knew it.
Tyrannosaurs had feathers.
Yeah. Well, probably, I think the smaller relatives of Tyrannosaurus Rex definitely had feathers or some sort of fuzz, but I think the bigger Tyrannosaur species, like Tyrannosaurus Rex and Tarbosaurus, etc., they either don't have feathers, or just a slightly little bit of fuzz on their back or on their head or something like that, but not a full coat of feathers. That's just, it makes the animal overheat. Like elephants, they don't have any fur, right? So why would a big T-Rex have feathers? Because it probably would have made the animal overheat.
Delong has feathers. In fact, the nearest relatives of the Tyrannosaurs, one group called the Compsognathids and another called the Ornithomimosaurs, we know both had feathers.
Compsognathids. Did I heard that correctly? Compsognathids, closer relatives of Tyrannosaurs? Tyrannosauroids? I don't know if I heard that right, but...
And indeed, all of their more recent relatives had feathers, up to and including the birds.
Yeah.
There's a whole swathe of dinosaurs with feathers. One of them is the Tyrannosaurs.
Of
Now, when this
course.
was first found, people were fascinated.
They are Coelurosaurs,
Wow,
after
Tyrannosaurs may
all.
have had feathers. And the immediate criticism was, okay, but Delong's like tiny. Like Delong's 2 meters or so. It's a really small little light animal. It lived in quite a cold environment. It needed feathers to keep warm, but T-Rex wouldn't have feathers. Once you get big, you're going to need to have scales. You're going to need to get rid of those feathers, or you're just going to overheat. So, okay,
Yeah.
maybe Delong's got feathers, but the other Tyrannosaurs don't.
Well, there were bigger Tyrannosaur species that had feathers, like probably Nanuxsaurus, etc. So there were some bigger Tyrannosaurids that had, feathers, I think. Of
Then
course,
a couple of
Tyrannus
years
as well.
ago, this turned up. This is Tyrannus.
Yeah, and it had
and it
feathers.
may not be this clear, but Tyrannus is
And
now known
it's
from
bigger.
3 specimens, and 2 of them were found together. So hopefully you can see here is a head,
Yeah.
and a neck, a back, pelvis, and a leg, and one tail, and then a second tail, pelvis, leg, second leg, body, arm,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
squashed
I can
head.
see, I can see.
So 2 lying together. There's a bicycle for scale. You can see how big these are.
Yeah, that's
Tyrannus is
quite
perhaps
big.
7-8 meters from snout to the tip of the tail, maybe a ton and a half. Tyrannus is covered in feathers from the tip of the snout to the tip of the tail to the toes.
Yeah.
This is a completely feathered animal. It's also much closer to Tyrannosaurus than is
Yeah, that's true, but yeah. I think Tyrannus was one of the bigger Tyrannosaurs that had feathers, but yeah, the biggest species like Tyrannosaurus Rex and Zootyrann is Jesus Christ, and Zoochang Tyrannus, etc. They of course probably didn't had feathers because they would be too big, literally like
Delong.
yeah.
So we have 2 different Tyrannosaurs with feathers, both a small one and a large one, and separated in a great deal of evolutionary history. This really strongly suggests that feathers are uniform and present across the Tyrannosaurs.
Yeah.
We may not have found a feathered Tyrannosaurus yet, but it may only be a matter of time.
Well, I don't
Certainly
think
I'm
you're going to find
confident
one.
that Tyrannosaurus had at least some feathers on it.
Well, they had. Well, didn't scientists found or paleontologists found literally some sort of skin of a Tyrannosaurus, and it literally showed that it had, mostly scales. They didn't had any evidence of real feathers, but I don't think Tyrannosaurs had really big feathers or something, or a lot of them.
Perhaps not quite a giant chicken,
No.
but certainly fluffy. So, let's try and summarize all of this up to the best that we can.
Oh
Tyrannosaurs
yeah,
were
yeah,
around
of
for
course.
100
T-Rex might have had feathers as a child and lost them as it grew. Yeah. Oh yeah. Literally, that's what they showed in Prehistoric Planet. Like, the younger specimens, like the juveniles of a Tyrannosaurus, they had some sort of feathers, but they lost the feathers while it was growing. So when the T-Rex was fully grown, it probably didn't had any feathers, or a really, really slightly some slightly fluff or something.
million years. these were around for a long time. They were on at least 3 different continents, perhaps as many as 5, and therefore...
Alright, Tyrannosaurs live for 100 million years. Yeah, that's a pretty long lifespan. Of course, they were a successful species, known for dozens of species, some of which are represented by dozens of specimens. That's insane. And excellent eyesight. Yeah, the best eyesight ever. Grew fast to large size. Yep, of course. Were effective long distance runners. Yeah, because it's literally as fast as a freaking Olympic sprinter, and it holds its speed for an incredibly long time. We're predators and scavengers, like I think most carnivorous dinosaurs, and of course, they primarily ate juveniles. Not only juveniles, but I think also the sick and weaker animals, and had feathers. At least some of the Tyrannosaurs had feathers. The medium and small sized Tyrannosaurs, they definitely had feathers, but the biggest species of the Tyrannosaur family, they probably didn't have feathers.
For it wouldn't surprise me if they
at least when they are fully
Africa
grown.
As well.
They may have had them
All
as
of the
juveniles.
Major continents represented for Tyrannosaurs. There's around 30 species known. There are still more coming. There's a new Tyrannosaur named only about 4 weeks ago. So we're still finding new species, we're still identifying new animals, and we're still describing them. But the ones we do have, some are represented by dozens of specimens. T-Rex around 20. There's also around 20 of Tarbosaurus in Asia, and about the same for Albertosaurus.
Really?
Some of the others rather less known, but even Guanlong is already known from 3 complete specimens, including a juvenile. So we actually have a really great knowledge and understanding of these things, their variation, how they grew.
They are
changed,
amazing
and indeed
animals
they did
and
grow
need to be
fast, large
respected,
size.
whatever it
We've seen
takes.
adaptations in the feet, which means they were probably effective long-distance runners, on top of the fact that they had big, long legs with a long
Yeah.
stride length, which would make them quick.
That's scary.
We've seen evidence for both predation and scavenging. So let's have no more of predator or scavenger. They were predators and scavengers.
Exactly. You can
They
learn
had
something
great
from that,
eyesight.
Jack Horner.
They would have made effective predators. They were probably primarily hunting juveniles when they were. And they were feathered animals.
Yeah.
And you put all this together, and I think we have a much better and very different understanding of Tyrannosaurs than we did perhaps even 3 or 4 years ago.
Yes, we do.
And it's an understanding which is probably only going to develop more in the coming years as we find more and more specimens.
can't
As
wait
say, Tyrannosaurus as a
until
modern
we
organism
discover more
is
about the
increasingly
T-Rex
driving forward
its
a lot of
relatives.
knowledge, and we do know more about this animal than perhaps any other. So I'll leave it there. If you want to get hold of me or follow my material,
that's
then me on Twitter, and
this
my
was
website contains a
insane.
lot of this kind of information if you want to look around at some of my pages.
Tyrannosaur
and research.
Chronicles.
And I think I'll
It's a
leave it
book.
there. Thank you very much for your attention.
David Homeman, you are a real hero to paleontology. I swear you really, really are. Oh my god. That was so freaking cool. That was so freaking cool. That was amazing. Alright, I literally enjoyed every single minute of this video. I found it so interesting. It was so cool. Yeah, alright, I think I'll leave it there. Yeah, we've watched it until the last minute. It was very interesting. I learned also a lot of new stuff. So for me personally, it was a very, very, very interesting video. Yeah, I think it's. I think that's it for today. This was fun. You should live stream more. Yeah, that's actually one last suggestion. Do you guys have any longer videos of something dinosaur related that I should react to? Please leave some suggestions. And I would really like to to read your amazing comments. Yeah, everyone, I want to say thanks for watching. Really, I really appreciate your time to watch my stream. Of course, I'm not a very big content creator at the point, but of course, like I said in an earlier video, it's not my main goal, of course, but yeah. You should check out Your Dinosaurs Are Wrong. Great. Oh yeah. I have heard from that from our YouTube channel indeed. I will check it out. I really will. I think it's very interesting to know. Yeah, well, guys, I think that's enough for today. Yeah, so if you like the stream, then of course click the thumbs up. If you want to subscribe on my channel, then please do. It's free, so you can do whenever you want. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok, etc. Links are down in the description. You can also add me on Discord if you want. Will you be watching PaleoCon? I don't know actually. I I honestly don't know what PaleoCon is or means. So, but yeah, everyone. Really, thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time. And hopefully, I will see you in the next stream. And of course, stay alert, because tomorrow, Saturday, new video will be released. Alright, everyone, thanks for watching. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.